Hello and welcome to the show. This week's FailRace versus the community, as the replay camera gets very confused, is A-class film or movie cars, famous movie cars. As we come into the first corner, the DeLorean hits 88 miles an hour and kills everybody, pretty much. I don't actually know what went on there. Some lag occurred and the DeLorean tried to travel through time and hit the back of a skyline and caused a rather big pile-up. Further around, some cars made it through without too much damage on them. This Jaguar E-Type found a curb and that didn't end so well for it. I expected there could be sort of potential for problems on these curves. I didn't expect as many cars to roll as we saw. Also, there was quite a few broken cars from the from the DeLorean. Yeah, it was a bit of an unfortunate start. Amazingly, despite starting right at the very back, my Mustang had managed to make its way up into 6th. Husky had started in the middle of the field in his Eleanor Mustang. Not quite the right generation, but it's close you can blooming get on Forza. However, he had been involved in some of the argy-bargy on the opening lap, had a bit of a damaged engine, so was struggling in a straight line. Daniel did start this race in an Esprit and then lagged, and he was causing a lot of the lag. I think we had to start this race about 3 times because the first 2 times it was even worse lag than we saw here. And yeah, Daniel had to back out because of his lag problems. Husky ended up running just a little bit too wide on the chicane. I think he may have bumped into the back of my car because we both lost it going over the hill. But yeah, I was past. It wasn't the best of evenings for internet connections, this one. At the very front, and it was a Dodge Challenger and 2 Ferraris that had managed to break free. There was another Ferrari further behind them as well, a Testarossa. It was a 250 California against a 250 GTO. The GTO was very good through the corners. It was probably one of the best handling cars here. However, Road Atlanta has an awful lot of straights, and it did struggle in a straight line. As in the lead, the Dodge is going sideways everywhere, not a particular surprise. And as we come onto the straight, you'll see just how far. This California is ridiculously quick. The Challenger is also pretty damn quick, and the GTO is going nowhere particularly fast on that straight. You saw how far back the California was when they went onto this straight. It is almost caught up to the back of the Dodge by the time they come to brake for the chicane. Of course, he's going to lose time through the chicane. With a car with this much speed, there's going to have been compromises made elsewhere. So it's a right hand through the corners. However, there is huge amounts of speed in that car. Husky was in, I don't know, middle of the field really. With a broken car, you're always going to struggle around a place like this because or at least once your engine's gone, you're really going to struggle around here. He's trying his best to fend off the Jaguar, and yeah, to be fair, it is his car was pretty good through the corners if it could hold off the rest of the field, but the minute we get on a straight, there goes the Jag, and it's not going to be long before the Firebird. I was amazed at how little damage that Firebird had, considering it was involved in the DeLorean's time travel attempt. I guess it got hit on the back, so it was only sort of rear aero that was damaged, but yeah, he got very lucky with the lack of damage on his car, considering. But yeah, Husky was struggling. He was slowly falling back through the field. I think there were 3 cars in this race that were killed with lag. There were still some damaged ones lying around at the front. And while it was very slow on the straights, the GTO was mighty fast through the corners, and it had caught up to the back of the Challenger, ran very wide through there, just about managed to keep control of it. And then you'll see, as they come onto the straight though, the GTO can do absolutely nothing. The GTO had a little bit of a slow run onto the back straight. However, they were pretty much nose to tail as they started the straight, and by sort of 3/4 of the way down, the GTO is no longer in camera shot. Yeah. The Challenger, well, I don't think it was the quickest car here. I think the Challenger was about the same sort of speed as my Mustang. The California was the quickest. The GTO, though, just couldn't keep up with them on the straights. And on a track like this, that's a really big problem. If this had been at a different track, I think the GTO probably would have won. It was pretty damn quick through the corners. The field ended up being fairly spread out in this one. As I said, with the mayhem at the first corner here, yeah, everybody sort of got a little bit spread out. There were a few cars that were broken. This was the most interesting battle that I could find. A Lamborghini Countach versus a Chevrolet Camaro. These two are actually pretty evenly matched for straight line speed. There was an awful lot of difference. When you run like a higher class like this, there's a lot of differences in how people build their cars, and that often means there's a lot of difference in straight line speed, and we were seeing that a lot on this track in particular. However, the Lamborghini ran a little bit wide as they come onto the back straight, letting the Camaro through. However, they were really pretty evenly matched, these two. Again, I don't know how people have built their cars, but I'm going to guess that these two were built fairly similarly. Yes, that's a word. As yeah, they had very, very similar top speeds. I mean, the Countach will start with a slightly higher PI, so they can do less upgrades to it, whereas the Camaro is going to be probably a little bit more of a handful through the corners. But yeah, it was a good battle between them two. However, at the front, it was going to be the Dodge that would take the win. Managed to get enough of an advantage over the 250 GTO. Not entirely sure what happened to the GTO. I think it got caught up in a battle with the California at some point. Don't worry about the Cadillac. That's a lap down. I think the Cadillac set a new record for 4 rolls in one race. It's the most we've ever had in a versus the community. Husky also at some point rolled his car. I'm not sure when. I didn't see it on camera. Couldn't find it. Either way, it is the Dodge that is going to take the win. The Ferraris were in 2nd and 3rd, and my Mustang managed to make it up to 4th. Race 2 is at the Hockenheim full circuit. The A-Team van was very quick off the line. I'm going to hazard a guess that might be 4-wheel drive, as it got an incredible launch. Somebody got lost at the first corner. There was a little bit of bumping through here, but it was mostly well behaved. They're going 3 wide into the second corner. That's always a little bit scary. There was another blooming California in this one, different driver this time around. The Daytona's getting a bit sideways. It's always scary having one of them in the middle of the field. They are huge, great big things, and they can often struggle through the corners. As we run onto the back straight, you'll see the straight line speed of these Mustangs. Huskies was quick, mine was quicker, and wherever the Ferrari is was also blooming fast. Not quite as many straights though on this track, so not such a big advantage to have straight line speed. Everything goes a little bit wrong into the hairpin though. The van outbrakes himself, has a small tag on the back of the Eclipse, and then something happens. I'm not sure, somebody missed their braking mark, and they had a big crash, and again half the field were killed by the 3rd corner, which it's the downside when you have sort of everybody very close on the opening lap. When you have a corner like that that's such a big braking zone from such high speeds, because these cars, they're A-class, they're pretty damn quick in a straight line, a lot of them are. Yeah, coming into that hairpin when everybody's all kind of concertinaing to a point caused a bit of a problem, to say the least. The Eclipse got away with fairly minor damage. I think it only had rear aero. It was a tiny tag from the van that ended up sending him around, and he got really lucky in avoiding the rest of the chaos that went on at the hairpin. So he was making his way through the field, getting past the Camaro there in the background. You can see there are quite a few cars that were diving off into the pits to get repaired from that. Much similar to the first race, really. There was probably a good half the field were suffering damage from that first sort of silliness, not quite first corner, but yeah, first lap chaos. Lamborghini Miura puts a very good move on the Camaro there. That's a tough place to overtake. I like the Hockenheim track. It's a good track for racing on. The short layout and the full layout are very good for very good for racing, as there's plenty of places to try and overtake a maneuver. That one there is one of the harder places to try and overtake on. This is probably the hardest place through here. It can be done, but it's very scary. The Camaro was having to think about it as the Miura runs wide. 2 cars behind him. We're pushing the track limits all the way there, trying to make the most. I'm also very surprised at how well the 350Z was keeping up with these, considering it looks like he has engine damage. On the replays it's showing him as having engine damage, and his car seemed to be struggling a bit in a straight line, so I presume he does. It's always very hard to tell quite what level of damage people have in the replays, because the telemetry isn't always correct. So he may well not have had engine damage, his car just might have been very slow in a straight line. But either way, this midfield was pretty damn close. It was fairly spread out elsewhere, as I said, because of the bit of brokenness, and I think there's 4 of us at the front who have scampered away, avoiding everything. The Miura and the A-Team van had it coming together through the first corner. However, the Miura was pretty damn quick, and as they go into the second corner, they tried to go 3 wide. The Nissan's a little bit out of luck there. The A-Team van gets another bump from the Daytona, and as they run around whatever corner number this is, the Miura disappears. This confused me when I first watched this. Because I don't know where the Miura went. So we're going to have another look. The replay camera doesn't show this, so we're going to look from the back of the Miura, and the hand of lag has dictated the Miura shall not take this corner, and it fell off the road. I don't know. I have no idea what was going on. The Miura and Camaro were side by side, and it doesn't look like there was any contact between them. It just decided to fling the Miura off into the wall. As far as I can tell, he didn't take any damage from it, but just lost a whole stack of time. Again, replay cameras weren't too good for showing this, but the A-Team van, well, it was a little bit inevitable, really, that it would find a way ending up on its side at some point, and there we go. Skidded a long way on its side as well, and now it's stuck. Yeah, the cars rolled quite a lot in this week's versus the community. Didn't expect these cars particularly to. Well, I expected the van to, but the rest of the cars I was surprised at how easily everything was rolling. Not much happened for the most part of this race. It was this midfield that was the most interesting, but for a lot of the time they were spread out. The Miura did catch up to the back of these guys and was going to do a very similar overtaking manoeuvre that killed it last time, or threw it off the track last time. This time the hand of lag did not intervene, and the Miura managed to get past. Also helps that I think his car hadn't suffered any damage, and the Camaro and the rest of that group had been bumping into each other a little bit, so yeah, he can catch up fairly easily. Yeah, there was connection issues. Well, there wasn't so much connection issues. We had a full lobby each race, I think, in this one. It was just lag issues in the race, and I'm not sure what caused it particularly. Either way, at the front, and it was me and Husky's Mustang that were well clear of the rest of the field. Husky could just about keep up with me through the corners, however I had a lot more straight line speed than he did, so I was gradually pulling away. And it was a fairly uneventful race, really, for me. I really do quite like this Mustang. As an A-class car, this is probably going to be my car of choice, because, yeah, this is quite a nice car to drive. We move on to our final race at Laguna Seca. The first corner here can often be problematic. I just saw them all going 4 wide at the start. Didn't realise they were doing that. There's always silliness, well, often silliness I should say, at this first corner, as it's quite a wide run-in. You often have cars going 3 or 4 wide. We got through it relatively okay. I think a Chevy Nova got a bump and took a bit of damage to his engine, but on the most part we were okay. It was on the second corner I got bumped out wide, and you'll see me in the background across the dirt, trying to avoid sort of coming back on the track and causing an even bigger crash. Husky, however, could break free, could get away from the mayhem that was unfolding behind him. Still, though, I mean, there's always going to be a couple of bumps when you've. Well, I don't say what tracks. I often don't even know what tracks we're running before we start an event, or before like a few minutes before the event starts. So yeah, when you're running tracks that you might not quite know as well, there's often a couple of bumps going on the opening lap when everybody's all very, very close together. Midfield was hectic yet again this time. The front of the races weren't the most exciting. It was in the middle of them. It was a little bit crowded. And yeah, things got a little hectic as we're trying to go 3 wide through. That doesn't really work. I also think that paint job's on the wrong skyline, but never mind. Camaro's coming on the track, almost manages to take me out. In the background there was a Cadillac on the dirt, and I'm not sure what happened to the Elise. I think the Elise tapped the back of a car in front, spun himself round, and then me and a Skyline got caught up behind him, and we were sort of taking avoiding action across the dirt. I had a very eventful first lap, and not particularly conducive to getting high up the order. The top 3 were gone at this point. They've got a huge advantage while the rest of us scrapped. I think this is the 2nd or 3rd lap, and you just can't see anybody else in shot. The Supra tried to go around the outside of the Jaguar at the top of the corkscrew, couldn't quite get them hooked on. I don't know how they both got their cars stopped there. They were both locked up and sliding and all over the place, but they managed to get them stopped. The Supra at this point was blooming quick, was looking for every which way he could get past the Jaguar. The Jaguar runs a little bit wide, but the Supra's on the outside for the final corner. You're not likely to go around the outside here. Supra ducks back, trying to do sort of a bit of a cutback. However, the Jag is rather quick in a straight line. I think the Jag would probably give my Mustang a run for its money as it blasts off to chase down Husky at the front. And yeah, you can see, look at the gap that it's got over the Supra by the time they reach the first corner. And Laguna Seca doesn't really have very long straights. This track doesn't suit straight line speed cars particularly. So yeah, that was an interesting battle up front. I was kind of going on a recovery drive. I was trying to fight my way through the field, and the field were all battling each other as well. We have an Aston Martin versus a Mitsubishi Evo as they run up towards the top of the corkscrew. It's my turn to try and have a look around the outside of somebody through here. This time I managed to get my car stopped and managed to get it turned. Got a little bit close. I think I got a little bit of a bump there. I had to jump across the dirt just to avoid running into the side of the Evo, who didn't expect me to be going around there. It's a tough place to overtake doing that manoeuvre. It often doesn't work, as you saw with the Supra, sorry, and everybody in the background falls off the road at that corner. That's a regular occurrence, just trying to push a little bit too much speed through there. And again, the midfield was all very bunched up in this race. We normally find that it spreads out fairly quickly and you get kind of pairings battling out, but at this point it was all in one pretty large group. You also see the speed of my Mustang in a straight line. It was incredibly quick. It was making overtaking fairly straightforward for me. There was a Cadillac CTS-V in this race. I've raced one of these before in A class. They are incredibly fast in a straight line. They're ridiculously quick. However, they are not the easiest car in the world to drive. They are often very difficult. I think I nearly rolled mine when I raced it. Where did I race it? It was in the saloon car racing in Sebring. I think I nearly rolled mine. Yeah, they are very, very quick cars, and they are just tricky to drive as the Cadillac gets sideways, the Camaro behind him gets sideways. Yeah, they're trying their best with these cars. They are tough, some of these, and of course I don't know how they're built. The Cadillac has disappeared out of shot. I was expecting him to disappear off down the straight, but instead he disappeared off into the corner. But even despite falling off the road, going on the dirt and coming back on the track again, the Cadillac is catching up to these cars by the time they get to the first corner. It's pretty much made up to the back of this group, if you like. That's the straight line speed this car has. Yeah, they are mighty, mighty fast cars if you can keep them all under control. There was a fast and furious battle going on for a position. I don't even know anymore. It was somewhere in the lower part of the top 10, I think. I'm not sure. It's confusing between a Subaru, an Evo, and another Subaru, and I'm not sure what's that behind. I think it's an Aston Martin. It was the older of the Subaru Imprezas that was by far the fastest in a straight line, was trying to find a way past. Having a little bit of a cutback on the Evo. The Evo seemed pretty good through the corners. It was really struggling with the straight line speed advantage a lot of the other cars had over it, as it's dropped one place to the Impreza. I was surprised actually at how there's a bit of lag going on. Ignore that. Yeah, there was still a problem in this one. Everybody had been pretty damn well behaved in this middle group up until this point. Yeah, they'd all behaved themselves. There hadn't been too many. There'd been a few bumps, but yeah, there hadn't been too many bumps in the midfield. At the front though, it had once Husky. I think Husky fell off the road at the corkscrew. And lost quite a lot of time. The Jaguar got past, the Supra got past. The Jaguar was pulling away from the Supra sort of half a second a lap, and had a fairly comfortable lead as he rounds the final corner. A little bit sideways. I was so hoping he was going to spin that when trying to correct it, but no. Yeah, the Jaguar was going to take the win. The Supra was in second, Husky was in third, and if I'd had one more lap I would have caught Husky, but I had to settle for fourth. The interesting battles were further back, and for me, overtake of the evening goes to the Cadillac, going around two cars with a couple of wheels on the dirt. That's a tough place to overtake around the outside at the best of times, let alone getting past two cars in a slidey Cadillac. And it looked like the Cadillac was going to hold on to the position. You saw its straight line speed. However, as they break into the final corner, yeah, I don't know what went on there. What I do know is all three of them were killed, and an Evo and the Skyline got past. The Subaru did manage to recover and get back on the road. While I think the Aston and the Cadillac, I think were dead pretty much in the gravel trap there. Yeah, that didn't quite go to plan. That final corner. I also love how the AI just have a bump once they got across the line and puts one of the Subarus in the wall. But yeah, there was some lag problems. I also want to point out this, while I tend to avoid showing crashes just because I don't want people to crash deliberately to get into a video, I am going to mention this one. As you see, is a little bit of poor driving from the Camaro there. It's completely his fault. However, he does the decent thing. This is what you're supposed to do. If you put somebody off the road by accident, you know, we all make mistakes from time to time. If you do that sort of thing by accident, wait for them to get back on the road. Okay, you can't give them back the time that they've lost from you bumping them off, but you can wait and let them get back on the road. Because if you are going to sit there and wait, he had no cars around him, so he could just sort of sit where he was. If you're going to wait for somebody, make sure you put your car off the road as well, or off the racing line, so you don't have an accident behind you. But there's a nice bit of courtesy there. That's what I like to see. Anyway, that is it for this week's Versus the Community. I apologise for the terribly lag-affected races. It was a bit of a shame, as when things weren't lagging and crashing, there was some pretty good racing in this one. Also, I apologise to the people who wanted to take part who couldn't. There were 3 full lobbies for this one, and I don't think quite everybody got in from the reserve lists. This one, everybody wanted to take part in the movie car racing. Now, for next week's Versus the Community, it is going to be held on the 19th of December. Since the actual video for that will be going up on the day before Christmas, I think. Yes, it will be. It'll be going up on Christmas Eve. I'm just checking the calendar as we speak. We're going to do a sort of a Christmassy themed one. When I say Christmassy themed, we're going to be running D-class cars at very, very small tracks. So I'm talking like Camino Mini, Ladera Mini, Iberian Mini. So build your cars with that in mind. I'm going to ban the Lotus Elan and Chevrolet Spark because I don't want them, because they're just leaderboard cars. And I'm gonna ask if you could have your car in a Christmassy sort of livery. If you can't paint, don't worry, I'm sure you can go on the storefront and find paints for this kind of thing. So yeah, we'll do that. It'll be a bit of fun. It will probably be a bit more chaotic than normal. It might be a little bit crashy, or its potential to be a little bit crashy. It's not going to be the ultimate serious racing doing this, because the tracks are going to be very hard to overtake on, but it should, fingers crossed, produce some interesting close racing. That's the plan. Anyway, if you want to take part in this, then you can sign up on our forums. I'll put a link into the description. Go to our forums, find the Versus the Community section, find the sign up bit in there, and that is how you take part. However, that is it for today, so thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.